Adam Phillips. I can't believe this is actually happening, babe. As Bradford stood watching Harper, he thought she looked like a child in a sweet shop. He loved how childlike she was when she was happy. The way she looked up at him with those sweet big eyes made him melt almost every time. Finally, he would be able to take care of her in a way she deserved. As Harper stood looking out of the kitchen, admiring the well-trimmed lawn and flowers, repeatedly telling him how happy she was, he started to laugh. Babe, I know how happy you are. Look at you. Anyone can see how happy you are with that smile on your face. I haven't seen you this happy in ages. All of my hard work was worth it to see you this happy. I'm the luckiest girl in the world to have you. I could stand here looking at this wonderful view for hours, she breathed, leaning on the expensive counter, trying to get an even better look. She turned back to look at him, flipping her black hair over her shoulder in a way that somehow struck him as adorable. I know how much you love the view, but we can't stand here admiring the view all day, he told her, touching her finger to her nose with a silly grin. The old woman will be home soon, and we need to start unpacking some of our belongings and put them in here before she comes back. Okay, Bradford, but can I have 5 more minutes, please? She looked at him, her big blue eyes blinking sweetly. He grinned at her, moving closer, running his hands along her shoulders. Okay, 5 more minutes, but that's all. And then we really do need to get a move on with the unpacking. She smiled, hugging him tight before breaking away to point out the beautiful trees in the yard. The young couple stood in their new home with their arms wrapped around each other before moving outside to start unpacking their belongings to put inside the house. Nora Donnelly drove home in the early evening, enjoying the spring sunlight and listening to her favorite station, The Blend, on the radio. She had had a good day at work as the admissions director at the local university. Good questions, good people, and a lot of respect, especially from the new secretary, Cindy. Nora had always enjoyed helping others. Her husband called it nagging, but what did he know? She had felt excited to see young Cindy sitting at the secretary desk, looking flustered. Nora had helped her organize things, instructed her on the proper break times and the like, and had left her to it. Cindy had chosen to come to her office out of the 20 other offices in the building to ask questions, and that made Nora feel ecstatic. It was still fairly early, the sun not yet down. Its rays permeated through her car windows, getting absorbed by her dark pencil skirt and blouse. She turned up the air conditioning. She expected her son, Colin, was home already, having only a mid-morning and early afternoon class. Her daughter, Clara, wouldn't be home for a while yet. She'd have a few hours before she needed to make dinner, long enough to take the Pilates class at the country club. In a mere couple of years, she had advanced to the level of expert in Pilates. She attacked her exercises with the ferocity and determination that she did everything else. I'll just drop off a few things at the house and get changed. As she turned onto the cul-de-sac, she frowned. Someone in the neighborhood had parked an ugly orange you-rented van in front of her house. Probably the Parkers. They didn't seem to know how not to be rude. Last year, they had accidentally put the wrong address on their daughter's open house invitations, and Nora had to deal with dozens of confused invitees, basically becoming a traffic director in her own house. Sarah had been off that day, trying to save her troublesome son, before Nora had put a stop to that once and for all. She wondered if Sarah had a hand in this you rent it dilemma. She probably felt like she could do anything now, since Nora had so easily given her the day off. Really? Back problems? Nora had back problems? She had birthed 2 children, after all. Did Nick ever give her a day off for that? But as Nora cautiously maneuvered the metallic black Volvo S80 around the moving van, she could see that the front door of her house was open. Only she and Nick had keys to the place, and Sarah. Sometimes they gave the keys to the landscaper, but he always gave them back. They had an alarm system, but she never bothered to set it, figuring that no one would have the guts to break into their fortress on the hill, especially since it stood so tall and imposing with black gates and a long driveway. Nora wondered what on earth was happening when she saw a young couple come out of the front door of her own home. Burglars? No, they did not take things out of the house. Nora observed them taking items out of the truck, carrying them into her house. Without a moment's hesitation, Nora opened her handbag, taking out her mobile phone and dialed her husband's mobile. It directed her straight to voicemail. Nick, why do you never answer your phone? I have just arrived home and have no idea what is going on. There are two kids with a truck taking items into our home. Did you have a hand in this? Is there something you're not telling me? I need you to come home right away to sort this mess out. When Nora had hung up the phone, she decided to also send Nick a text message. There was probably more of a chance of him reading the text than listening to her voicemail. She wouldn't consider calling his work phone. He rarely answered his messages there either, especially if they were from her. It had always frustrated her that Nick was not available on the phone during the day, but she hoped he would sense the urgency in her voice and in the messages and come home immediately. Somehow she doubted it. She didn't like the feeling of knowing that her husband probably would consider her messages just more nagging problems and not answer them at all until he got home that night, claiming he had been busy all day. Nick felt a buzzing in his pants. He was in the middle of a conference call with some of his lawyers, debating next steps on an intellectual property action. Annoyed, he inconspicuously slid the phone from his pocket and looked at it. A missed call and a voicemail from his wife, followed up by a text. Come home, now! He noticed the time, 3:30. What the hell? He told her he'd be working late, and he couldn't very well end this call early, especially since he had been late this morning. He loosened his tie again, feeling hot and tired. He had drawn the curtains in his large office, hoping that blocking the sun would help with the heat, but to no avail. The air conditioning in the building had been out for the last couple of weeks, making things worse. He wondered if the fat on his belly resulted in better insulation. Maybe he needed to get some short-sleeved dress shirts, even though Nora said those made him look old. He felt half tempted to take off his shirt completely, but thought better of it. What would those young secretaries think if they came in here with a message for him and they saw his big, hairy body? Nick, you still there? The voice of William Powell, an important man in the lawyer world, interrupted his thoughts. Yeah, he cleared his throat, trying to breathe through what felt like a stifling heat. Now, yes, William, do go on. He tried to concentrate on the conference call, but his mind was on his wife now. She had never understood the importance of his job. He has lost count of the number of times he has told her he did not want any interruptions during the day. Come home, now! She really did not understand him at all. Did she really think he could walk out midway through a conference call? He assumed she was angry about Sarah or something. Probably she had come home to a messy house and she didn't like that one bit. There was no way he was going to leave early. What with the late start and his problems concentrating in the heat, he was in no position to call his own hours. No, that was it. He was not going to let his wife distract him from his work. He turned the phone on to silent so he would not be distracted anymore. He was sure there would be further calls or texts throughout the day. Nick put all thoughts of his wife out of his mind and started debating with the lawyers on the conference call. Nick did not see nor hear the flashing of his mobile phone for the rest of the day. Instead, all of the calls and urgent texts from his wife went unnoticed until he finished work hours later.